So, a few years ago, when I was in college, I had a American cinema course, and the professor opened up the semester by saying that once you're done with this course, you're never going to be able to see the movies the same way again. And since then, much to my and my fiance's dismay, I can't help but analyze movies and film whenever I see it. And one movie I can't watch in the same way that I used to again is Ghostbusters. Because through the symbolism of the film and the time frame, the first Ghostbusters movie happens to be Ronald Reagan's wet dream. Because it is just like when you look at horror movies and slashers, how they kind of follow into the whole ideology of that. Ghostbusters does it, but more. First bit, when the movie starts, your three protagonists, Ray, Egon, and Peter, are all professors at Empire State University. All three of them are in a very bad state in their professorial career. Egon happens to be very smart with engineering stuff, but none of his research is going anywhere. Peter is just a charlatan and a con artist who just wants to sleep with any of the undergrads he can get to. And I'm not even the only one to call him a con artist, because even Dana refers to him as a con artist. And then Ray, he just has the heart for it. But the thing is, he's there because he just doesn't want to get results. Because you can't work, you have to work in the public sector to not have results. But then as soon as they get results, as soon as they have evidence that the proof of life post-mortem exists, or existence post-mortem exists, what happens? They don't share their findings with the scientific community to corroborate their evidence, or to try to help the wayward souls that they find, because there is kind of some evidence throughout the entire franchise that the souls they see are literally souls of people, for the most part. They instead monopolize upon this information and go into business for themselves, literally capturing wayward souls, just incarcerating them for existing. And you can kind of see in that first scene, that first case that they have, where they go capture Slimer, they want to be paid a very high amount. In fact, when I remembered, it was last time I've seen the movie, it was referenced at about $2,000 in the 80s. So that's, quite a bit more now. I think that would be about $5,000 to $10,000 range for exterminating of a ghost. But of course, they've monopolized this industry. There's no one else you can really call. Furthermore, when they suddenly need help because their business is going too quickly, and granted, they had Janine before business went quickly, they start hiring out more people. They hire, again, Janine and Winston. They hire a woman and a black man. Keep in mind, the three owners of the company are white men. So, there's that angle. And then who's another character? Oh, wait, Louis Tully. What is he? He's a tax attorney. He's a tax attorney for the common person. And how is he portrayed? He's portrayed as a buffoon. He's portrayed as someone who can't make friends because the closest thing he can have to friends are clients. And on top of that, he's just, dropping his keys, locking himself out of his apartment all the time, running and screaming at the first sign of trouble. Which, granted, yeah, if I was chased by a terror dog, I think I would want to run too. But at the same time, they'd play it up for laughs. A man's terror for laughs, who literally, their job is to be a form of defense attorney against the government, given the fact that at that time, what's going on? Oh yeah, there's the tax changes that are going to affect the common person. Then you look at the Gozer of it all. Because Gozer is an extra dimensional being who isn't from our dimension, who is considered by many as the real threat, but really all the real evil comes from outside of our dimension. We have to protect what is here. Because Gozer's a threat from outside. We gotta stop them. Which also, that angle is further evidenced in Ghostbusters too, because as soon as Gozer's stopped, all of a sudden business dries up because they stopped them from coming in, and then suddenly, all the crime stops. I mean, suddenly there's no ghost. But no, the real villain in Ghostbusters, the first one, happens to be Walter Peck of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. In fact, every member of the government is shown to be either incompetent or just out for themselves. Because unless you're talking about the police and the military, because again, Walter Peck, what does he do? He wants to just shut down the Ghostbusters because they failed to do the proper paperwork and prove their evidence, i.e. corroborate their findings with the scientific community. And what also happens? When they meet the mayor, what does he say? He'll let them do it not because it's the right thing to do to have them save the day, not because it'll save millions of lives, but because it'll save millions of registered voters. On top of this, what happens after? They get a police escort to Dana's apartment building. A police and military escort. Also, when they're first seen walking through the hotel, what happens? They even point out the fact that they're all walking around with 3 untested nuclear accelerators on their backs. Later, 4 if you count Winston. Again, if shit goes wrong with those, that's literally 3 nuclear explosions in the middle of a hotel in New York City. Not just New York, in Manhattan. Endangering how many civilians, because who gives a shit about actual civilian health and safety rights? Honestly, Walter Peck had a deal and had a point with actually stopping them from their the only honest thing about them going into business the way they did is the fact is it was literally all on the backs of Ray's family home, because if they went under, he's the one who's really suffering because he was born in that house. His mother raised him there. And obviously the other 2 didn't give a shit because, again, they're capitalists. Hell, even in the beginning of the movie, when they're asking the librarian, interviewing her on her findings, they also make a tacit excuse saying that, she's seeing it, the apparitions she's seeing, because she's menstruating. Plus, that conversation that Ray and Winston are having in the Ecto-1, and they're discussing all of the crazy shit going on being a sign of it being Judgment Day, which is something the evangelical right really wants to happen because, they don't want to have anyone around. They just want to encourage their apocalypse. And again, this is just based on what I remember. The last time I've seen this movie was before COVID. Because, literally, I haven't seen it in a long time. One time I came across a copy of the script and I read it, and that's just from what I remember from that. And sure, it's a comedy movie. I'm pretty sure they weren't trying to make it a political thing, but the fact is, art represents reality a lot of times, and the fact is, this was one of the hit movies of the 80s, and who was the president of the 1980s? Ronald Reagan. But the thing is, most things have more critique on the system as is. This is more of a tacit endorsement. That being said, if I ever found a way to turn off my brain and not analyze things, I'm pretty sure I would be able to enjoy the film, but wanted to point out my observations and see what you guys think. Educate, agitate, and organize. Solidarity.